So it's actually quite an exciting day. We've collected WIFO from ProStrip up in Nottingham. It was a little bit of a fraught trip. It got a little bit wet on the way back, had a problem with the trailer, and she got a little bit wet. So I've actually spent just an afternoon just rubbing down some of the panels that got a little bit rusty with some wire wool. But actually, on inspection, she's not actually too bad. When we first took the wings and the sills off the car, they were generally packed with filler, and you start wondering really why somebody had gone to so much trouble filling the sills with filler when they could actually have probably replaced them. I'm pretty pleased actually that we braced the body. I know some people say it's not necessary. The idea is that you replace the sills, and hopefully that gives the front and the back some rigidity. Other people say it's best braced, but I think on retrospect in this case it was pretty good that we did brace it. You can start to see where the rear has slightly split away on the inner panels, and that means that the whole of the back actually slightly flexes. So actually it was probably a good idea that these braces were here just for that, really. But you can see where Greg has repaired the A and the B posts, and all this was done before it went for its dipping. But there's it on the other side. All this was done before it got taken to ProStrip to try and give it some rigidity. So looking around the body, you can tell that little WIFO's had some damage in the past. We knew this dent was here right from day one when we first started to take off. There's a little bit more sort of battle damage around the front wing here, so that was obviously all filled in. And then here's the back of the rear left panel. So that's obviously taken some damage in the past, has been beaten out. And then if you come down to the back left hand corner, again, had no evidence of this here at all, so that's had a knock at some point, and again was all covered in filler. And the whole of the back end is looking rather dented. I think the other big point that Greg raised was he was slightly worried about this radiator duct panel. It's obviously again bent, and I think he's worked out that again the car has had a front end impact at some point. It looks like, you can't obviously see it here, but we've got a little bit of a problem with the front chassis extension, so that'll have to be replaced. And then when that goes back on the chassis, we can sit the body on it and it can all be welded up. So it's interesting actually, this is the first time I've actually had a car dipped. It's always fascinating when you go to the car shows and see them dipped, and they're either presented in this state or when they've had the electroplating. But it's amazing how many panels are just full of holes. Now clearly here, this is perhaps the worst part of the car. The whole of the front valance has been eaten away, and there was absolutely no idea that this was like this at all when the paint and filler was on it. I think the next question then really is whether it's more economical to repair these or whether to start thinking about replacing panels. So obviously it's almost impossible replacing the front valance. These whole front valances cost an absolute fortune, and generally it's only this front edge that's bad, up to about the air vent. The inner front wing here we've actually got, because that was actually removed from this part of the inner wing. So we've got this part sitting at the garage already, and that's the bit that obviously has the captive nuts ready for the front wing fixing bolts. So got to start to think about whether we look for replacement panels, or whether it's more economical to just repair what we've got. This is the back part of the front left hand valance. Again, obviously where the water's got in between the little plastic strip and the front wing, not quite so bad here. Maybe that can be repaired. We move back now towards the inner wing, or the rear inner wing of the car. Again, a little bit of damage, but generally it's fairly solid, but there are slight little holes that appear here. Maybe these can be repaired with a small section, but the worst bit really is at the back of this rear inner panel. There's a lot more holes appearing now, and again you're starting to think there's 2 or 3 pieces here that need to be repaired, and these are a bit fiddly, so I might start working out whether it's more economic to start repairing these panels, or maybe look for some new panels. The boot actually seems to be really good. This seems to be a section that's often quite appalling in some of these old cars, but Wiffo's boot seems to be very solid. I had a lot of trouble trying to release these bolts when I was dismantling the fuel tank, but in actual fact, with the dipping process, they've absolutely freed up completely. So here's the front offside wing, with evidence of a little bit of brazing here. So there's obviously been a little bit of repair damage there at some point. This little bit's been replaced. But again, this side isn't quite so bad all the way back. Just odd little sections missing around here. But actually this side seems to be much better than the near side. This is the rear inner panel on the offside, the right hand side. Again, a lot more rust here, really split away from the front part. This rust is really just where it's been slightly oxidising since it got home, but actually when it left Pro Strip it was immaculately clear. Again, there's some little patches on the back of the rear inner panel, and again, same as the near side, these little holes have appeared here on this little bit of strip on the back of the rear inner panel. So again, it's whether we replace the whole of this panel, or try and maybe think about replacing what's already here. Have to think about that. It's interesting though that for every person you ask as to what they do, you seem to get another answer. So if anyone's got any ideas, let me know. Seems to come down to one's proficiency with a welder. I obviously can't weld, so I'm going to have to contract this out and get it done properly. Seems to be the same story at the front end. It may well be worth replacing this front radiator duct panel. It's difficult to see, but if you put a light underneath here, you can start seeing that there's tiny little holes at the back where the rust is through. So we've got the same problem here with these little panels, and again there's a fair bit of rust on the front part of the inner wings here too, so that's going to have to be thought about as well. Same story on the near side, a fair bit of rust around these brackets, and again on the front section of the inner wing, lots of little holes. So again, have to take a view as to whether that can be repaired or whether we need to think about getting some new pieces. Same problem here with where the brake pedal box and the heater sit. I don't know the name of this panel, but again you can see where it's taken an awful lot of damage over the years. But again we have the same problem here with rust. It's very, very thin. So again, have to start working out whether that can be repaired or whether it might be easier to try and find another one. So I think all in all, it looks like the body is reasonably good, I think. I've certainly seen much worse ones. Sometimes you see holes in every panel, but there's quite a lot that's intact here.